In this video, we're going to look at placing our repository online. We do that, one, we'll have an offline backup somewhere else besides on our computer. If our computer blows up, we'll be able to get our code back. But also it makes it easy to share our code with other people and work together with a team. Now, I do want to mention, if you just got done watching the previous videos, you shouldn't be doing this one right away. Go back and do some edits, work on a project, stage your files, then commit them, and repeat that process a few times and get used to that idea. And then come back and watch this video. So to put your files online, you'll need to go to github.com. That's the site we're going to be using for our files. So github.com, and when you get here, there's a spot for you to type in your email address and sign up for GitHub. And as soon as you type something in, here's an example. That's not a real email address, but we'll try it. And hit sign up for GitHub. It's going to come here and it's going to give you a spot to fill out a username. Your email address will be here. You get to select a password, do a verification, just like creating an account anywhere else. Okay. Then once you do that, when you come here, you can just go to the sign in page. And I'm going to sign in. I'm going to pause the video while I sign in, and then I'll come right back. Okay, I'm back. Once you've signed in, you'll see a screen very similar to this. Mine has a few more options on it because I actually have an organization for our class at school. So you won't exactly see this, but you need to make your online repo where you want to put the files from your local repo on your computer. So we're going to go up here right beside where it says repositories, and we're going to say new repository. Okay. If we come down through here, it says repository template. We're going to ignore that. The owner will be your account. Okay. The repository name, I'm going to call it my web because I like it to match what's on my computer. It's not a big deal if it doesn't. Okay. You have an option to make it public or private. You may not have both options because you're using a free account. I have an account through the school that gives me options that you may not have. In general, take whichever one is the default if you don't have a choice. I'm trying to remember which one it gives you for free. I believe they're all public repositories, but all right, so we're going to take that. We're not going to check any of these boxes. As a matter of fact, it would be a bad idea to check one of these boxes now. We already have a README file, so we're not going to create a new README file here. We'll talk about ignore a little bit later, and we're not going to worry about licensing our code to anybody right now. So basically, just give your repository a name, hit create repository, and then it gives you a screen. It gives you some sample code for different things you might want to do. But I'm going to go through the code for you. The one thing we do need to know is, one, we need to make sure we're on HTTPS here. There's two ways that we can interface with that server. One is using SSH and one is using HTTPS. We're going to use HTTPS. It works better through the firewall. Okay, so make sure that button's clicked, and then right here it gives you an address for your repository. Okay, it's going to have github.com. It's probably going to have your username and then whatever you called your site .git. So we want to copy that to our clipboard, and you can do that by just clicking this button over here. Okay, so our online repository is now made. That's it. We go in, we say new repository, and we get this address. That's basically all we have to do to get started with an online repository. All right, so let's go back to our files. Let's edit my index file again. And I'm going to change my title again to my really amazing web page. And I'll change this line here. Look at this amazing web page. Okay, and we'll save it. So we've gone in, we've edited files, we've added files, whatever we want to do to the files in our repository. We come over and we can do a get status and see that that file's been modified. Okay, we'll do a get add dot to add all of our files to the staging area. Okay, that's done. And we'll do a get commit. Okay. Oh, and I didn't do a message. Changed the title again is my message. There it is. All right, so our files have been committed. Okay. After we get as many commits done, if we look at our log, okay, we've got all these different commits that we've done. Every once in a while, we need to put our things up into our repository. We want to transfer things to our repository. So to do that, we have to tell Git where our repository is at. Let me clear. And we do that by setting up and telling Git about our remote repositories. So if I type git remote right now, it doesn't show us anything because we don't have any remote repository set up. Okay. So git remote shows us the remotes that we have configured. I'm going to put that in my notes up here. And actually, I'm going to make a new section here on our notes. Git remote shows us the remotes that are configured. Right? So we don't have any configured. Let's configure one. So we're going to use git remote. Then we're going to add a remote. And we have to give our remote a name. And the name that everybody uses for their online remote is origin. Okay. Technically, we could call our remote anything we want. Okay. But it's a convention that everybody uses. They always call it origin. I shouldn't say always. There's probably some people that don't, but in general, everybody does it. So I'm encouraging you, just follow the convention and name your remote origin. And then we have to tell it the address of our origin. And that's the part we get from over here. When we do a copy, we can come over here and I'm going to right click and I'm going to paste that address in. And then hit enter. And that's it. So get remote. We're going to add origin and give it the address for our origin, for our remote repo. Now if I do a get remote, it shows us I have a remote called origin configured. Yay. Okay. So it's that easy. Create your remote, get remote add. Okay. And once it's configured, now we can start sending our code up to it. So the thing that gets added on after we add our files to the staging area, then commit our files, is that eventually we want to push our files to the remote repository. So we're going to do just that. We are going to do git push, okay? And there's a -u switch that we use the first time we do a push, okay? And we're going to tell it which branch we want to push and where we want to push it to. So the destination comes first. Git push to the origin, our main branch. Remember, we're on our main branch here, right? So we say git push -u origin. Oop, I better spell it right. Main. Okay. And we hit go. And it asks us to sign in. Sign in to GitHub, so you might have to sign in the first time. We'll sign in with our browser. And that's it. So it used my cache username and password. Since I was already signed in over here, I basically just had to hit the button. Okay. So enumerating objects, there were 17 objects. We counted them. It did a bunch of stuff to them. Resolving deltas, that means it found out what changes have been made, which everything was a change right now. And to GitHub, the address that we used, we've sent our main branch. Okay, let's do a git status. Okay, we're on branch main, and our branch is up to date with origin main, meaning that we're up to date with our online version. Nothing to commit because we've already committed things. The working tree is clean. So let's do another edit real quick. Let me go back to my web page. Let's just add a new file. Let's do, I'm getting tired of changing my index file. So let's do a new text document. We'll call it my text. I'm just creating one just to, and then I opened it in Notepad. This is a test document. Okay, so we add and edit files in our repo. When we come back over, let me clear this. Git status. We see that one file has been edited. So we'll do our git add. Then our git commit. I'll do a message. Added a text file. Okay. Let's do our git status. Okay. See, our branch is ahead of origin main by one commit. It means we've committed once since we've updated our website. Now we don't have to push anything up to the GitHub every time we do a commit. Okay. But we should do it semi-regularly or when you're ready to share a certain piece of code with people. So I would say at the very least, if you're working in class, maybe do a commit every day, maybe a couple times a day if you want to. You might be doing you might be doing a commit 4 or 5 times during the lab, and maybe at the end of the lab push it up to your repo. That way, if one of the other students in the other labs comes in and blows up your repo, wipes out your computer, you still have your code up on the web somewhere. Okay. So when we're done, we did our commit. All we need to do is a git push. We do not need to use the -u that we did the first time. Okay. After we do that first time, it keeps track. Last time we pushed from main up to the origin on the web, we can just do git push. Okay. We don't need to tell it from where to where anymore. It already knows. So I'll just do a git push. Okay. And it did it. Git status. Okay. We're on the branch main and we're up to date with our online version. Nothing to commit. Our working tree is clean. So to reiterate our new workflow, what are we doing on a day? So we covered lots of commands here, but what are we generally doing? Okay. We add files and make edits. Okay. When we're ready, we add our files to the staging area and then commit them. And we repeat these 3 steps probably as many times as we want, but every once in a while then we do a git push and put it up to the web. It's that simple. So that's the next step I want you to get used to. Keep doing your commits as you work on your code. Every once in a while, push it up to the web. At least once a day, push it up to the web. Okay, let's go look at our GitHub, because now that we've pushed it up here, let's actually look at if I click on code, you can see all of my files are up here on the web now. Okay, they were up there the first time we pushed it. They were up there. We'll spend more time up here looking around, and feel free to look around at your project. But basically, we'll see them. We can see the last time I added a text file. There's my little note what I did the last time I did a push. The last commit I had that has been pushed up says I added a text file. It gives me the hash for that particular commit. Okay. So we're going to, I think we're going to stop right here. I do want to point out one thing, maybe a couple things. Right here, remember I said our README file was important. Anything we put in our README file, welcome to the repo. This is where we keep our files. If you remember, I typed that in our README file. So your README about your project will always be here. So it's always good to include a README. If you come into GitHub after you have files up here, it will tell you, hey, you don't have a README. Would you like to make one? All right. So it's always good to have a README, and you can keep notes about your project in here. As a matter of fact, later on, I will be providing a repo to you with an assignment in it. It's coming up here in a couple weeks probably, where you will use my repo as your starting point, and the instructions for your assignment will be in this README file. Some of the other things you can do, you can look around here. Under Insights, if I go to Network, you can see here basically a little graph. Here's our main branch. We're only using one branch right now, and you can see each of our commits. Okay, if I hover over that one, I added a text file. There's where I changed the title again, if you remember that. Here's the commit before that where I modified the title. And I can click on those and look, I go back and I can see what did I change. This is where I added all those files, right? So they're all green. Let me go back. Let's do the one where I changed the title. I can click on that commit and go back and look at it. And I can see, oh, here's what I used to have in red. And here's what I changed it to when I did this commit. It actually keeps track of the differences in our files. That could come in real handy if you're trying to figure out what went wrong with your project. So we always have access to our history, and we'll work more with that later. So feel free to look around the website and see what you can see. There's some pretty cool stuff. I think that's one of the coolest ones. And we'll talk about how to rewind or go back or get another version after we learn a few more techniques down the road. So for right now, add your files and make edits, stage your files and do your commits regularly, and at least once a day, push it up to your repository.